Good morning, Year 4. Today is Thursday the 28th of January and this video is for children who have the Year 4 comprehension booklet. We will be looking at page 28 today and it is titled Poems About Witches. Before I start, I just want to give a shout out to Callum and Sanu for their hard work and their effort when they have been writing their answers out in their comprehension book, because these two boys have tried very hard to write their answers in full sentences and they've done an excellent job of doing that, so well done, boys. Okay, before we start, I've just got a little activity for us to warm up with first, and your task is to rewrite these sentences so that the proper nouns start with capital letters. So we know that proper nouns are the names of places or things or people, and because they're a name of something, they will need a capital letter. So I've written 5 sentences and I would like you to have a go at correcting them because I have missed out the capital letters in them, okay? So I want you to have a go at adding the capital letters in these sentences. You don't have to write them down as long as you know where the capital letters need to go, just to get our brains working, because some of us forgot to add capital letters to some of our work on Tuesday and Wednesday. So please make sure that you're doing that for me, please, Year 4. So pause the video here, and then when you're ready, you can check your answers after you have finished. Okay, so if you have got the same answers as me, well done. So have a look, where is it that Miss Prince has added the capital letters? So have a quick look, check your answers. Well done if you got them right. If there's some that you struggled on, that's fine. You can see here where you will have needed to have added them. Okay, so your learning question for today is, can I make comparisons between texts? Now, before we start looking at the text, I've just picked out some vocabulary that I think we might not know. Now, there isn't many today, and that's because a lot of the vocab that's in the poems today, I think a lot of us already know what most of the words mean. So the first word is cowslips. Now, cowslips are a type of flower, and I've added a picture just so you can see what they look like. My next word is steeple hat. Now, a steeple hat is basically a pointy witch's hat. Okay, so it's just another word that we use to describe a witch's hat. And then the word admired, I've added a picture of a little girl hugging her mum because she admires her mum. So it means if you like or have respect or love something, that you admire them. So I could say, oh, I really admire the work and effort that Isabella puts in to her workbooks every day because she goes to a lot of effort. Okay, so that's just an example. I might say that I really admire Olivia Rose's hair because she has some lovely plaits and she's got very nice long hair, and I really admire that. I wish my hair was a little bit longer. Okay, so that's a couple of examples of how I would use the word admire in a sentence. Okay, so because we're looking at the key skill of making comparisons, I've decided that we're going to use commentating Cassie. Now, we haven't really used commentating Cassie in our guided reading lessons, so I thought today would be the perfect chance to have a go at using Cassie to help us with the text that we're looking at today. So Cassie's job is to look at the similarities and differences between texts. She will make a comparison between them, and then she will use what she knows from those comparisons in her answers. So just remember that some of the questions today will expect you to use Cassie to describe and make comparisons between the two texts. Now, we won't be using commentator Cassie for all the questions, but because we haven't really looked at comparing texts yet, I think this would be a really good chance for us to develop the skill that commentating Cassie has. Okay, so our text today is called Poem About Witches. Now, you can see here that we've got the glossary and we've got the word cowslips and steeple hat. But you can also see that we've got 2 different poems by two different people. And we're going to be looking at them on their own for a couple of questions, and then towards the end there are some questions where we've got to look at them together, and that's where we will be using Cassie. Okay, so reading through your poems at least twice, and again making sure that you've got a really good understanding of what they mean, and then come back and we will go through the questions. Now, I said yesterday that I wanted to make sure that you were becoming more independent when you answer your questions. So there are only a couple where I have written answers or stem sentences to help you. Okay, because I think we're starting to get a really good idea of how to approach these questions. I'm seeing that a lot of children are highlighting key parts in the questions, which is fantastic, so please keep doing that. Now, I've stopped doing that because I can see that a lot of you are already doing it to help you approach the questions, and it's helping you to break down what you need to do, so that is fantastic. So question 1 looks at the poem The Witch. So it says, why do you think the witch was picking cowslips in The Witch? Now, I already know that witches have cauldrons and they make spells. Now, in order to make spells and potions and to use their cauldron, they will need ingredients. So I think, for my answer, I have written, I think that the witch was picking cowslips to use for a spell. You might want to say for a potion. Okay, so she might be collecting them because she's probably got a spell in mind or a potion in mind, and she needs cowslips in order to follow through with whatever it is that she's decided she wants to do. Okay, question 2. What colour is the witch's skirt in The Witch? Circle 1. Now, I have got 4 choices, but one of them's covered up by my beautiful face. So I'll just very quickly read them out. You've got black, blue, red, and let me get it on to the right page, orange. So black, blue, red, and orange. Now, these colours aren't in the poem. There is a synonym for one of the colours. So a synonym is where a word means the same thing as another word, but it appears differently because it's spelt differently. So have a look in the poem and see if you can find the colour of the witch's skirt, and you're just drawing a circle around one of them, okay? Question 3. Why do you think the narrator decided to leave at the end of The Witch? So at the end of the poem, The Witch, it says, for when she turned towards me, I thought it best to go. Why do we think the narrator decided to go? What do you already know about witches? Would you trust a witch? Do you think that they are evil or do you think they are good? What might that witch do to the narrator if they didn't leave? So have a think as to why the narrator decided to leave. He said he thought it was best to go. Why did he say that? Now we're moving on for question 4 and 5 to the poem The Witches. So we're looking at the second poem here. Why is it hard to tell which witch has the itch in Two Witches? Now you need to read through this to get an understanding of which witch has the itch. And you need to think very carefully because I think this could be a little bit confusing. So have a look, read through very carefully, and I have started the sentence off for your answer. Now I've put, I think that it is hard to tell which witch has the itch because. What is it about this poem that makes it hard for you to recognise which witch has the itch? Okay, so have a think and see if you can identify why it might be tricky to tell the witches apart. Okay. Question 5. Now you've got 2 parts for question 5. You've got part A and part B. Okay, so part A says 2 witches has been described as a tongue twister. Why do you think this is? So I've written a definition as to what a tongue twister is because I'm not sure if you know or not. So I have found that a tongue twister is lines and verses that are difficult to pronounce due to the words being used. So red lorry, yellow lorry. When you say that lots of times very quickly, that is a tongue twister. She sells seashells on the seashore is also another example of a tongue twister. And I think the witch had an itch. The itch was so itchy that it gave her a twitch would also be an example of a tongue twister. But why do you think this is? So using the definition, have a think about why the two witches is being described as a tongue twister. What do you know and notice and recognise with the pattern of the words that are being used? So I'll just very quickly underline some to give you an idea. So I've underlined 3 words there to give you a good idea as to why it might be tricky to read this poem and why it makes this poem a tongue twister. Part B says two witches also uses wordplay. Which 2 words in the poem are used in wordplay? Now wordplay is used to add humour, so to make something funny or a little bit to make a joke, and they make it to make the reader laugh, basically, to get some giggles, and they do it to a piece of writing. Okay, so what 2 words are used in the poem that you would think would typically, be associated with wordplay? Okay, have a think. They might rhyme. Okay, so have a look, give it a go. Even if you aren't sure, try your best with this one. I've given you a definition of what wordplay is. Have a go at this one. Which 2 words in the poem are used in wordplay? Okay, so what is it that makes them funny? Okay, question 6. This is where we're going to be using commentating Cassie. So we've got the 2 poems. How are the witches from the poems different? So we're looking at how they are different, and we're comparing the 3 different witches. What is it about the 2 witches in the 2 witches poem and the witch in the witch poem that makes them different? So is it the way that they have been described? Are some of them scarier than others? Are some funnier than others? Okay, so have a read, have a think, and take your time with this one because you are developing your commentating Cassie skills. So you're going to pick out the differences and then you're going to report them in your answer. And the last question is asking you for your opinion. So there is no right or wrong answer. Give it a good go. It's asking you, which poem do you prefer? Explain your answer. So I prefer The Witch, or Two Witches because, and then you'll expand. Do you think that The Two Witches is a funnier poem? Is that why you prefer The Two Witches? Do you prefer The Witch because The Witch is a little bit scary? Or is it because you like the way that the words have been matched to rhyme? Okay, so have a think very carefully as to which one you prefer and tell me why, okay? Now, your challenge for today is going to look at homophones. So I have taken this idea from the poem Two Witches because, well, I haven't taken it just from Two Witches, but I've taken it from the poems because witch and witch are homophones. They are examples of words that sound the same, but they are spelt differently. So my challenge for you today is, can you write a list of as many words that you can think of that have the same homophones? So I've got examples here in the corner of my screen with wait, so waiting, and weight as in the weight of something. I've also got right as in to write, or right as in your right hand side. Okay, so there's an example of 2, and then you've got the one of which and which. So your task for today, if you wish to accept the challenge, is to have a think and write down in your spelling books a list of as many words that have the same homophones. So they sound the same, but they're spelt differently. Okay, and as always, please send in your work to the Year 4 email address, which is on the screen below. Now, before we finish, I just want you to have a quick reflection on your lesson today. So your reflection, you don't have to write it down. You can tell a mum, a dad, a sibling, something that you have learnt today. So what is it that you have learnt today from the lesson, looking at the two poems about witches? Okay, so we discussed wordplay and what wordplay meant. We discussed what a tongue twister was. We've discussed homophones. We've looked at commentating Cassie. So you have learnt a lot. You've learnt some new vocab. So have a think, which is the one that you value the most? What is one thing that you have learnt today? So something that's interested you today, okay? Write it down if you want to with your homophones list, or you can tell a parent, okay? So have a go. Any questions, please get in touch, and don't hesitate to ask, okay? And I'll see you all tomorrow for another comprehension video. Bye.